Well, everyone. Welcome back. Episode 7 of the Brad Burns Bridges podcast.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Bridges. Another week of college football in the books, another week of NFL football in the books. Brad, I can't believe that we've kept it up 7 straight weeks. That's a hell of an accomplishment for the boys. So
Love it.
yeah, so this week we had some different picks. Brad went 2 of 5. He was heavy on the UCLA Bears or Bruins, and I went 4 of 5. Our guest picker Ty went 3 of 5, so he doesn't tie for first, but a solid week out of him. Our totals moved to me. I'm 20 of 30, and Brad 17 of 30. So we're still right there, neck and neck. I guess I know Pac-12 ball, Brad. I obviously don't know anything about the SEC, but
Big guy out west.
yeah, it was a good week of football. Before we get into that, you did something fun over the weekend. Why don't you tell our viewers what you were up to?
Yeah, I didn't watch a whole lot of football this weekend. I was at ACL down in Austin, Texas. Saw some really cool performances, but glad to be back. Ready for another good week of podcasting.
Heck yeah, dude. Just getting right after it, man. I've never been to a full-out music festival. I don't know if that's my thing, but
It was my first one. I would definitely recommend it. It was a good time.
yeah, isn't hydration a huge key? Make sure you're drinking water.
Yeah, we had really good weather, so we kind of lucked out on that end. But there's like all these like hydration stations everywhere,
Yeah, I feel
and so it would be hard to go get dehydrated. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where you can get.
you.
So
Did
it was a
anyone
cool setup for sure. Did anyone what?
fall out? Have a little too much fun.
Nah,
Hey,
no. We were being responsible for sure.
there we go. That's what it's all
It's a
about.
marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It was 3 whole days, so it was a lot, but
Woo.
it
A lot
was
of fun.
fun.
Hell yeah. Well, as we ended last podcast, we mentioned that we faced off in fantasy this week. Um, yeah, you go ahead. I mean, Brad put the beat down to me. My team did not perform well. Brad had Mostert go off. You can kind of talk about your team a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right here. Yeah, squad scored 135 on the week. Big games out of Mostert, like Bridges said. Honestly, though, it was just more of like a well-rounded performance from the squad. Mahomes 17, McCaffrey 14, Olave 16. He's kind of been struggling of late, so good to see that. Yeah, McLaurin even Sutton. It was a well-rounded performance from the Country Roads Take Mahomes team. So happy with the week.
Yeah, just like my teammate or team name, I was close, but no Jamar. We didn't have many touchdowns on the squad this week, which is a killer. We did everything we could, but we had some mediocre play from the squad. A couple 6 pointers from Puka Nakua hurts when you leave Waddle on your bench, and we're gonna bounce back. This is not tripping about it. We get Jameer Gibbs back next week. We're gonna battle back and turn this thing around. But congratulations on kicking my butt this week in fantasy. I know that was a big one. Let's kind of hop.
What's your what? No, what's your well? One quick question. What's your
Yeah.
strategy the rest of the year? I mean, you got
So
four solid wide receivers.
yeah,
It is interesting.
I'm definitely gonna look into the trade block. I think you're a team that bodes well with mine as a potential trade
That's what I'm saying.
pair. Um, but yes, I'm definitely thinking about making some moves here. I'm pretty happy with my receiving core. I don't think can get much better from where I drafted. Picking up Puka is obviously great. Waddle, Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, really stout guys. The problem is I'm gonna have to hopefully pick the right one every week, which I kind of hate doing that. I kind of like plug and plays. But Keenan Allen's also made of glass, so I'm holding on to that because I just feel like he's gonna get hurt again, and it would be nice not to have to worry
Right.
about that. But yeah, what's your
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I got A Chain on the IR, so once he gets back, I'll have a little more decision making like you do right now. But I
yeah?
have Deontay Johnson coming back this week too. So I mean, my team's looking pretty deep. Sutton's been a nice surprise, pretty consistent overall. Mostert has been just a beast, and then obviously McCaffrey's carrying the squad. Hopefully that oblique injury is not too bad. So Yeah, like you. I mean, just playing it safe with injuries. You never know what's going to happen.
I definitely want to make some moves and push for playoffs later because I do, knocking on wood, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think we're both playoff teams as far as playoff caliber teams. I've also got like Tank Dell sneakily on my bench. I've got receivers, I've got depth. So I am going to make a push later in the year. It's just about getting there kind of thing. But why don't we hop straight into college football? Game of the week, Washington, Oregon. I mean, comes down to a field goal at the end. Looks like two absolute great teams going after it in Washington, big Pac-12 matchup. It lived up to the hype. Lived up to the hype. What you see about that, Brad?
Absolutely. I think I'm praying we see this matchup again in the Big 12 championship. I'm not exactly sure. Does the Pac-12 still have divisions?
Uh, I don't know. I would assume so, but
That would be disappointing because they're both in the North then, so we wouldn't be able to get a rematch. But yeah, I mean, both teams look super good. If that game's at Oregon, Oregon pulls it off. I think it was that close. But I guess biggest story of the weekend for that game is Penix now kind of running away at the Heisman,
yeah,
especially after Caleb Williams drops one at Notre Dame. It's Penix's thing to lose at this point, and
absolutely.
deservingly so. He's looking sharp out there, raising his draft stock. I've seen him kind of in the middle of the first round now. A lot of mock drafts. A lot of people are comparing him to Tua, just bigger and stronger, and so Tua is kind of killing it right now at the Dolphins. So really good comparisons for Penix.
For
Good to
sure.
see after kind of his struggles at Indiana, and good to see him get a second chance at Washington. But stellar game like we were talking last week, and it kind of lived up to the hype.
Yep, absolutely, man. I think you got to give Bo Nix credit too. I think he marches his team right down the field and gives them a chance to win it. So you kind of
They both helped themselves this week, both
yes,
QBs for sure.
yes, and they've both been around for forever. So it's cool to see guys like that. Let's move on. You were saying USC Notre Dame. That was another matchup that we talked about going into the weekend. You backed the Trojans, Brad. That was very surprising to me, given you've been so high on this Notre Dame squad all year, and then your chance to pick them and you go against them. What was your thought process going into that?
Yeah, I guess I was just riding the wave of momentum for USC, and then kind of the opposite going on with Notre Dame. Um, but yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like one of those games where it just nothing clicks right for the Trojans. Defense was in shambles. Caleb Williams really kind of looked lost throughout the
Yeah,
game. Um, didn't scramble or navigate the pocket as well as he usually does, and I guess I'd give credit to Notre Dame's defense, but also it felt like he was a little ill prepared for kind of the scheme they were showing him.
yeah,
Yeah, good look for Notre Dame though. It kind of sucks they already have two losses on their schedule without a conference championship they can win. So it seems like their playoff chances are close to zero. But still, still a lot to play for. Trying to get into a New Year's Six bowl, but yeah, really good performance out of them.
yep. I agree, man. I really liked what I saw out of Notre Dame. Um, when you have your defense is struggling like USC, the one thing you cannot do is turn the ball over and give them a short field. They did it three times, and there was points picked up on each of those drives. It got out of hand early. I really still think it's Penix and Caleb Williams. One bad game can hurt your Heisman hopes if Penix runs off and doesn't have a bad one. But it's really looking good for Penix seeing three interceptions and trying to bounce back from that. They are going to have a tough road ahead of them in the Pac-12. I'm looking forward to see that and decide what's going on with USC later in their year.
Yeah,
Picking up
if
this
you think it's if you think it's Caleb Williams and Penix, I'm pretty sure they play here pretty soon.
Yep,
I'm not exactly sure, but I mean that it can basically come down to that game, so that'll be fun to watch.
for sure, absolutely. Why don't we talk about the Hawkeyes? That was a big little deal that we talked about last week. Obviously, young or quarterback stepping in, first true start against his former team, you could say. Or actually, yeah, he stepped in the week before, correct?
Yep, this is a second
Second start.
start,
Second start.
third game, third appearance this
Yeah.
season. Yeah,
Well, they obviously he doesn't look good on the stat line. Obviously, they ran the ball well. They get out of there with a win, um, which is pretty good for y'all so far this year. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, Iowa football, man, we do whatever it takes to win. Some call it complementary football.
Yeah,
I think it's mostly just we have a really good defense. We're really stout and effective on special teams. Torrey Taylor, All American punter, um, great coaching on the special teams with LeVar Woods, our special teams coordinator. Um, yeah, I mean, other than that, the offense looks, same thing. Some explosive plays out of the run game, which is really good to see. LaShawn Daniels took it 80 yards for our first touchdown. Um, really good rushing attack. Good sign for the offensive line, getting good leverage. But yeah, the passing game is still a struggle. Unfortunately, we do lose Eric All, our leading receiver. He's a tight end, but leading the team in yards and receptions. That's going to hurt. Really don't know where Deacon Hill goes for targets the rest of the year. But guys are going to have to step up at this point because there's basically no one else to throw it to. So that'll be interesting to watch. But I mean, the Big Ten West is just such in shambles at this point. It's
yep.
honestly hilarious. I was looking at the standings earlier. Iowa's 3-1 in the Big Ten. Wisconsin's now in second place with 2-1. And then after that, it's 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-3, 1-3. And so it seems like a cakewalk at this point, but you never know with the Hawkeyes. So
Never know, man. It is interesting. The run game helped propel y'all to a win. There really wasn't anything getting going in the passing game, but I mean, I expect you load the box, right? If you're playing Iowa, you just got to. You play man coverage and make that dude beat you, and it's very surprising that you're giving up explosive run plays, given that happens all the time. But it's just kind of hard to watch, especially when you're like, man, if we're going to lose, make the quarterback beat us. Let's load the box, go man coverage. Let's make him make a play. And it just, you shouldn't give up those explosive plays. All credit to Iowa. We're going to talk about them later in the debate. So they pick up a big win. They move on to the next week. Did you catch any of the Chiefs game, Brad?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday night. Thought they played well. Broncos looked terrible. Kept it close as I expected them to. I mean, it's Thursday night. Everyone's watching. Didn't expect like a blowout or anything, but if you watch the entire game, it never really felt like the Broncos had any type of chance. Thought Mahomes, played well, managed the game well. Took a lot of time on his offensive drives, kept Russell Wilson and Sean Payton's offense off the field, which I thought was effective. And then defense, like they're killing it. I mean, the young guys in the secondary are coming to fruition from last year's draft class, really playing well. Defensive front is getting some pressure with obviously Chris Jones back, the young guys stepping up. Um, yeah, and then linebackers too, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay. I mean, the whole defense is kind of rounding out to be a really elite unit. And so that's kind of the side of the ball. I wouldn't say carrying the team, but been a main reason for the strong 5-1 start for the Chiefs.
For sure. I watched that game, and I think it's funny because I make points all the time on this pod, and I make statements. And last week I was saying I wasn't worried about Kelsey, but I think he's playing a different role, and he's going to not have as many explosive games. Boom, 100 yards at halftime. Like, screw me, right? But really good to see as a Chiefs fan. I think Rashi Rice, Kadarius Toney, guys like that on offense are helping him kind of find space, and he's just so good at finding zones, sitting in the soft part of the zone, helping Mahomes out, getting the ball down the field. Security blanket, he's great. I think y'all's defense is the most impressive thing that I've seen. Huge step up from last year. Not that y'all were a bad group, but they look elite, top five this year. And when you have the number one quarterback in the league, it's going to be hard to lose.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that's the Patriot
yeah,
formula, right? I mean, they never really had too many explosive guys on offense other than Randy Moss and Gronk. We
yep.
have Kelsey, which is the Gronk equivalent, and then hopefully someone comes into that role to take the defense over the top. But yeah, it's looking like a dangerous unit on the defensive side that can kind of carry us.
Absolutely. So I guess go Chiefs, and we'll look forward to the rest of their year. I want to talk a little bit about the Lions. I caught that whole game on Sunday, man, and let me tell you, we said that they might not be, 1-2, but I think you can make an debate or a debate out of it at this point with the 49ers and the Eagles going down this weekend. I mean, they went into Tampa, and Tampa's got a great defensive unit there, great linebackers. They have good D line
Good
play,
coaching.
great coaching, and they go in and dominate from the start to the finish. Jared Goff is playing as good, if not like the best quarterback in the league right now. He's efficient. He's picking up zones. He's had a couple turnovers, but it hasn't impacted the game. But man, their defense looks good. Everything's clicking right now for the Lions. David Montgomery goes down. The defense is out, man, and they're looking good. You should get Jahmyr Gibbs back. I'm very high on this team. I think there's a three-way shot to go out and win the NFC outright. I think we're going to learn a lot about the Lions here going forward. They're going to start playing some good teams because arguably they
Right.
played the Bucks, um, the Panthers, and Green Bay and all that. So I mean they're the only or guys to take down the Chiefs so far. I'm huge on them. Did you catch any of that game?
No, I was driving back, or no, I was at ACL on
Yeah.
Sunday. But kind of my just overall thoughts of kind of how they've started the season. Ben Johnson, the OC, has just been a huge win over the offseason, retaining him. He had
Yeah.
done some head coaching interviews around the league, and the organization was definitely concerned that he was going to take one and get hired as a head coach somewhere else. Huge win for the Lions and Jared Goff to get him back.
Yes.
And like you said, he's playing like one of the best QBs in the league. He's had a couple turnovers, but super efficient still. He needs some other wide receivers to step up. The
Yes.
only game I've seen from start to finish was the Chiefs, and their other wide receivers, other than Amon Ra, were not helping him out. Sam Laporta has been a huge boost. Rookie tight end out of Iowa. He's been awesome. Hoping to see Jamison Williams soon, see what he can do. That would be awesome. But yeah, just loving Ben Johnson's offense and the defense playing better than what I was expecting coming into the season. So I agree with you. The Eagles don't look great. 49ers, we saw, I think 49ers are probably still the top,
Yeah.
but they're vulnerable losing to the Browns.
Well, I mean,
And so
they lose
Lions are right
McCaffrey,
there.
they lose Debo. Um, you see how much they rely on those two dudes in their offense. And the Browns, let's not forget, they're one of the best defenses in football. We're not taking anything away from them, but it's one of those games that they should have won. They missed a 49-yard field goal, and Jake Moody's been great all year. They had a chance to win, and they were down men, and they weren't playing their best football. So let's move on, and let's get kind of into our debate topics and move this thing forward. Kind of get into the Hogs real quick before I introduce this. When are we going to win a close game, Brad? I think it comes down to coaching, man. I love Sam Pittman. I just think that we've lost so many close games in a row that it gives you hope. And as a Hog fan, watching that, I'd almost rather lose by double digits. Just don't tease me every week. With that being said, we're easily the best 2-5 team in college football. But are we actually good? We've lost to some really good teams. And I was looking at Missouri's schedule the other day. I think that we easily are 4-3, potentially 5-2, 6-1 with Mizzou's schedule. You know, what do you think we'd be with Mizzou's schedule? Can you pull it up real quick and kind of outline who they've played so far?
Absolutely. I do agree. I think the squad is better than what I thought it was after the BYU game. So at that point, was that our second or third game of the year?
Third game. So
So
yeah,
2-1, yeah. After playing two cupcakes, I'm like, okay, like this is going to be rough. Like we just lost to BYU at home, um, but kind of, and then we knew this gauntlet of games was going to be tough, right? I mean,
yeah,
we had A&M, or we had LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, and Bama,
all on
all
the road.
games on the road. One neutral site, but still like 5 hours away in Dallas, Texas. Like not an easy road trip by any means. But I'm pulling up Mizzou's schedule. Kentucky, I mean, yeah, they don't look great either. I mean, I don't know who they beat,
Yeah.
but
Here,
they
just
just
look
got
them up real quick for time purposes. Just who they've
they
played.
played South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, K State, Memphis, Vandy, LSU, and Kentucky, and their one loss was to LSU.
Yeah. Who do you
And
think
so,
they?
yeah, I mean, we both played LSU. We lost by what, three?
They
They
got beat
lost
by
by
double
10.
digits. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we beat South Dakota, we beat Middle Tennessee. K State doesn't look great, getting losing to Oklahoma State. Yeah, sure, we win that game 3-0. Memphis 4-0. Vandy 5-0. Yeah, I mean, at worst,
At
we
worst,
lose to
four and
Kentucky
three.
too.
Like if we lose two
Yeah, at
of these
worst.
games, yeah, like I think
Yeah,
easily
absolutely.
4-3. I think 6-1, 5-2 is in play. So I do not think the Hogs are a bad team. I looked on Twitter and the number one strength of schedule, like the hardest schedule in college football this year. Guess who has it? Us. Why is that us every year? I don't know, but it's something to look at because we sit back and
Right.
as fans and we're like, man, we're 2-5, the boat's sinking, the boat's sinking, and we're playing top 25 caliber teams every week. A&M lost to Tennessee last weekend, and they were by far the better team on the field. It just didn't go their
Right.
way. So I mean, all of our losses, like BYU is a decent team, that one hurts, but the other four. If I tell you we're going to go into Baton Rouge and lose by 3 and Tuscaloosa and lose by 3 at the beginning of the year, you're taking that. You're running with that.
Yeah.
It's usually 20 points. So I do think the Hogs are a good team. I think it's just about putting together wins and winning close games at this point. Is that kind of your final statement on it too?
Yeah. I just get concerned. I mean, trying to count wins the rest of the year. I mean, we got one blunder left, to try and make a bowl game with a 6-6 record. So I get nervous about that, but I agree with you. I mean, I I'm confident the wins will start to come our way.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of things. I think this is the biggest weekend of, this week you're coming up for the game. In Fayetteville at home against Mississippi State. That's the biggest game of Sam Pittman's career in my point. You come home and you dominate that game. You win that game like you're supposed to win it, and you move forward and get some momentum going. Florida is a tough game. Like they've looked decent. We
Yeah.
have to go into the swamp. We haven't won there in a while. So I think you've got to get some good mojo going because if you drop this game at home, the rest of your season's done in my mind. I think that you might be lucky to win one or two games. If you go 3-9, 4-8, not a good look to end the season. So I'm with you, Brad. I think you got to win this game at home, and you
Yeah.
and go forward.
That's a great point. Big game, big week.
Yep. And this will teach us a lot about Sam Pittman. I think that the fan base is already up in the air, and this is a must-win game. So with that being said, stay in the college aspect of things. Let's move on to our next topic. We've kind of already talked about it. There's been a lot of studs in college football this year. One stands out in particular in my mind so far. Who is your Heisman Trophy winner, Brad, through 7 weeks of college football?
The season were to end today, I think it's pretty easy. I think it's Michael Penix. Just pulled out, just had possibly a Heisman moment against Oregon. Leading his team against them. Probably one of the most competitive games of the year. Came out with the W. Insane stats throughout the year. Don't see him slowing down at all with the high power offense they got down in Washington. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say other than that. I think he's a pretty clear contender right now, or front runner right now. Obviously, it's a long season away. I think we're only, what are we, halfway through?
Yeah.
So a lot can happen, but as of today, I'm giving it to Michael Penix.
I am agreeing with you. I think before this week happened and you saw the USC Notre Dame debacle, I think it was very close. Um,
Yeah.
I honestly might even lean Penix before the USC debacle this week because a lot of people, they were back and forth swapping, but Caleb Williams is an incredible talent.
It's tough to
People,
win it back to back.
yes. But Penix has looked so good, and he showed up in the big moments. Yeah, he had a turnover, right? But I mean, we're seeing another great quarterback emerge in college football that's not out of nowhere because I remember when he's stepped on the scene at Indiana and played good ball and then the ACL tear, right? Um,
I'm
and
not sure. They played Iowa early in the year, like 2021 maybe, and just got the doors blown out of them.
Also, an insanely good defense that you're going up against. So, which we'll
Very
talk about
true.
that here in a little bit too. But
Yeah, but no, yeah, it is good to see. I agree.
yeah, so I mean, I like seeing it. I think Drake May is in two right now. Actually, I think he had a great week against Miami. They blow out Miami. Look really good. He has a good
That's a
week.
good point.
Get a wide receiver back. I think Caleb Williams sitting three here. So if I had to give you my top three, I'm going Penix, May, Caleb Williams, and I think that it's comes down to Penix playing ball. So you got a top three?
I like Penix. Sleeper, I like JJ McCarthy. I think
Yep.
he's playing super good.
Really
And
good.
I like their chances of going undefeated, which I think is a really important aspect of the Heisman.
Yeah.
Um, Number three, I agree. I like Drake May. I think they got one tough game against Florida State. So if they can pull that out, he looks like a tough competitor in the competition as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Where does Brock Bowers?
That's my three.
Brock Bowers hurt, man. That's a huge deal in college football.
Yeah, if you're him, do you come back or are you done? He already's got two natties.
He's got two natties, but I think that dude loves football. And I'm not saying that a lot of people don't, but how much it's a high ankle sprain deal. Like it's not like he's, you know, it's a big deal, but I think he comes back. Would I? If I'm playing for the Arkansas Razorbacks, absolutely. I bleed red. And that's like the only thing that I care about other than, sports related. So I would 100% come back. I think, yeah, you have two natties. It's about legacy now, man. You're one of the best players in college football. You can get right and be ready for the playoffs and not rush into it, because the recovery time is 4 to 6 weeks. So we're talking 6 weeks left in the playoff. I think Georgia has some tough games ahead, but I think Tennessee isn't as good as they have been. I think that they're going to be able to make it to the SEC championship game, and that's a time that you would see them. But yeah, I would if I was him. What about you?
I don't know. You make some good points. And I mean, what other tight ends in college football history would start on three national championship teams? But I don't know. Those high ankle sprains are tough, and
Yeah.
the amount of money that you can get top 10 picks in the draft versus 10 to 20 versus 20 to 30. I'm not saying he would fall that far, but never know what can happen. I mean, it's a lot of money on the table, and so it's a hard decision.
Absolutely. That was a good point to bring up. I just think that guy is a gamer. And I think it's hard to take someone like that, like get them off the field, especially when you're in the running for a national championship. It'd be different if they're sitting at two losses, you know,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Orange Bowl or something. And I just don't see it. Moving on to our third debate topic, Brad, you brought this one up. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing going around Iowa circles right now. So before the season started, there was a new little stipulation in Brian Ferentz's contract saying, we're going to keep you as OC, but we're only going to give you so and so much money if you hit a 25 points per game benchmark and the team wins 7 games.
Yeah.
We're already at 6-1 or 5. I think we're at 6-1.
Yeah.
So 7 games is in the bag, but we're not. Things aren't looking great on the 25 points per game benchmark. I think we're averaging like 20-ish, maybe 21. But my question is, if you're Iowa, and let's say you finish the season 10-2, 11-1, and make the Big Ten championship, and let's say we lose to Michigan,
Let's say
are you
Penn
firing
State.
Penn State?
Yeah.
Again, that would be rough. But are you
Yeah.
firing Brian Ferentz, or what are you doing if you're head coach Kurt Ferentz, or you're the athletic director of Iowa University?
Yeah. So we got 10 minutes left. I'm just going to go ahead and put that one out there so we know where we're at. I think if you go 10-2 and you lose in the Big Ten championship game, it's hard to fire. Like it's hard to fire someone from a staff when you're 10-2. I'm going to start with that point. to argue it, you're Iowa football and you've had great records every year. And the one thing said about your you could win a national championship if you had an OC. That's my answer. I think in Iowa's case, if we're talking Arkansas, someone that comes out of the blue, goes 10-2, we haven't done that in forever, and you lose in the SEC championship game, and your offense is putting up 22 points per game, but you have a great defense, I'm going to sit here and be like, hey man, let's not fire any member of the staff when we're going 10-2. In Iowa's case, I do think it is something that you need to seriously consider because how many teams are able to, be stable and have 20 years of a insane defensive, you know, defense changing. Like they change games and they have made them who they are for the last 5+ years. You've got to make a push now and you've got to bring in someone because I think it's an attractive place to go as an offensive coordinator because you see the tight ends that are coming out of Iowa. You know, bring a quarterback, bring some like an offensive mind in here and let's right the ship, man. I think you have a national championship product on the field already. So if you can get that offense right, I think you got to.
Yep, I agree. I have a few different points though. So my first kind of main point is this is the last year of the Big Ten West and East, right?
Yeah.
You got Washington, you got Oregon, you got USC, and then you got UCLA. Three of the four are probably top five offenses right now.
100%.
And so next year you're in a pool of what is that 17 18 teams. You're not in your little weak Big Ten West where you get Nebraska, you get Minnesota, you got Northwestern. I mean, you're out in the open now, and so there's no getting by to the Big Ten championship with this 21 points per game offense. And so that's my first point. Like it's a perfect kind of segue for change. You got this weird contract. He's not getting it. And then you got all these teams coming in. Competition is going to get a lot stronger. Your strength of schedule is not going to be like this ever again. And so it's kind of a natural segue into like, okay, like there needs to be some change.
Yeah.
And secondly, you kind of brought it up. They do have the players. Like it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
If you look past like the past 10 years at kind of just Iowa football in general, obviously a lot of defensive guys go on to have long, great careers in the NFL. But you look at the offensive side as well, you got tons of offensive linemen. We're basically tight end you at this point. And you had a couple quarterbacks, one who's still on a roster, and CJ Beathard solidified himself as the backup to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you have players who have made, NFL rosters and kind of have had great careers. So it's not like we're like this Northwestern or, Virginia or some of these lower tier Power 5 schools. Like you have the talent. It's so obviously the scheme that's holding this team back. It almost hurts. And so it'll be interesting. It's his son. It's our head coach's son, who's our offensive coordinator, if our audience isn't aware. And so it's a hard situation. But if it was me, he's gone.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of a real quick. We had a thing when Petrino was here. Petrino hired his son early in his days there, and we struggled as well. So it is a very difficult situation, but I'm glad we're both on the same page there because I think Iowa is there with talent level. So, heck yeah, that was really good, debate topics for the day. Let's move straight into our pick 'em for the week. Not as many ranked matchups this week, but we still have some good games. So we're kind of, we're in a lull from the past 2 weeks with all these huge ranked matchup big games. But without further ado, let's kind of hop into it. First game, Mississippi State, Arkansas, 11 a.m. kickoff. Arkansas is -7 here, Brad.
Yeah, I think this one's easy for me. Give me the Hogs. Like you said, a career game for Sam Pittman. I mean, it's all or nothing at this point. So give me the Hogs. I think they'll be fired up. Mississippi State's probably one of the worst teams we've played to date. So I think it's pretty easy. Give me the Hogs.
Yeah, give me the Hogs. I think we come out and we get after it, and we get things going right into our bye week, and then we go into Florida with some momentum. Next game, stay in the SEC, Tennessee at Alabama. This is a game that Alabama's 100% had circled on their calendar all year. The spread is 9. They're at home. Give me the Tide by 9. I think that they're looking good, getting better each week. I think that they were kind of, Arkansas game was tough, but I think that they roll at home against Tennessee after they lost last year.
Yeah, I think they win, but nine's a lot, especially kind of their performance last week against the Hogs, only winning by 3. Give me Tennessee. Um, they won this weekend, right?
Yes. They
I
beat
think
A&M.
they beat A&M. Yeah, give me the Knowles, or yeah, give me the no the Volunteers.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Volunteers.
Uh,
All good.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
9 points is a lot.
heartbreaker for the Tide last year. So that is a big game. Let's move on. 3 minute warning, Brad. Utah at USC. USC's minus 6.5 after a tough loss. You take this one.
Give me USC, bounce back. I like how it's at home, less than a touchdown in the points, and so I think they win by at least a touchdown. So give me the Trojans.
Yeah, I'm going the Utes, man. I think their defense is shit. I already said it, so I'm sticking with it. Give me the Utes. I thought they were at home. My bad. But just for the adversity, I'm going Utah minus or plus 6.5. I think that their defense is good enough, and they're coming off a shaky week, and USC's defense is not very good, so their offense is going to be able to
They
move
are not
the
very
ball a
good.
little bit. So Clemson at Miami. Miami's gotten beat 2 weeks in a row. They got pummeled by NC last week. Clemson is visiting. They're minus 2.5. I think this is a decision for Miami as a program. I think you lose this game, you lose kind of your season. I think Miami gets it right, and they beat Clemson at home minus 2.5 and right the ship.
Give me who did you take?
I took Miami.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I'm taking Clemson. Only reason is I don't even love Dabo, but I'm taking him because he's the better coach in this matchup. Mario Cristobal has not proven to be an elite leader, especially on the sidelines with kind of these blunders we've seen. Yeah, no faith there. So give me the Tigers.
Sweet. Last game of the day, college game day, 11 a.m. kickoff, which is sucks. But we got Penn State at Ohio State. Ohio State's minus 4.5 here, Brad. What you thinking?
I like the Buckeyes at home. 11 a.m. is rough as a road team to get fired up for. They'll be fired up. I mean, it's the biggest game of the year for them, Penn State. But I don't know. I just like the kind of the experience of the Buckeyes in big games. Obviously, Penn State's been in some in the past few years, but obviously Ohio State's been in a lot more. Look for Marvin Harrison to kind of break out. I think you'll have a big game. Buckeyes.
Give me the Nittany Lions, man. They put a whooping and scored a lot of points against Iowa, and I have a lot of respect for that defense. I think Iowa's defense is better than Ohio State. Give me Penn State plus 4.5 on the road. I think they break it. They go into the Big Ten, and they're trying to take on Michigan for the rest of it. Well, Brad, that's kind of it for wraps up today's episode of the pod. Again, thank you for being here. It was a good week. Want to remind everyone to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to be a guest on this week's pod or next week's pod, reach out to us and we'll get you on here. But again, everyone, thanks for joining us, and y'all have a good one. See you next week.
Peace.